So, Jody, what would your advice be to someone who has an idea? It's novel, there's nothing like it, and they're thinking of trying it, but obviously they have nobody else to mimic. What would your advice be to someone like that?
People told me that your products would not be successful, but if you really think that it could work, you study it, you research it, and you really feel that it could happen, test the waters. Launch it on a small scale. See what the feedback is like. See if you have people asking for it more. And then make the commitment to grow. The ideas that people say can't be done, those are the ones I think that are the best and are worth pursuing. And it would be a shame not to pursue something that you have a passion for. You don't want to live with regrets. At least try it.
Okay, guys, are we ready? All right, showtime. Welcome to another episode of Urpreneur. Today we have the pleasure of interviewing Mr. Jody White of Slimdown 360. I'm excited to hear how Jody ended up in that kind of venture and why Slimdown 360?
So, I had a funny journey to this point. It was kind of random. I went to university. I studied management and finance at UE here. And I actually had a scholarship to do my master's. I would have been paid for anywhere in the world. In the award ceremony, someone came to me and said, "Do you want a job?" I'm like, okay, well, why not? This scholarship was eligible for a little while. And I got a job as a brand manager in pharmaceuticals right out of university. So I managed some of the larger brands in Trinidad for a little while. And then, the CEO of the company actually left a piece of paper in the printer on the main floor. And everybody found out that the company was going to merge into another. So we found out that some of us were going to be made redundant. So I left the job. And then I traveled immediately and I thought, well, what am I going to do next? And it was trying to figure out, do I apply for more jobs? Do I try to go into business? Or what will I do? And I played with many ideas, but none of them I really had a heart in. So I thought, what is it do I like to do the most? And I had the hobby of going to the gym, like many boys, 20s, And I was like, so do I open a gym? I'm like, nah, well, what is there in the market that doesn't exist? And the thought of creating meals for people who have fitness goals, that came to mind. So, all right, but I couldn't cook. I didn't have a kitchen. I didn't have anything. So I said, Ma, I feel I have an idea for a business. And she's like, boy, go back to work now. I mean, my mother didn't like to cook. She could cook, but she doesn't want to do this as a business to say, help me. She was a full-time teacher. And she's like, I'm not going to help you. You're going to have to do this all on your own. So I was like, okay, I'll think about it. And I applied for jobs in between that time, and I didn't get them. And I was like, what, let's really do this. And I got a few people that I knew, and I started this business. I worked on it for a little while, and it just started picking up and catching on. And I did it in my mother's kitchen for a couple of months. And of course, you see your son struggling a little bit. He'll come and he'll help him a little bit. He'll help you wash a dish, help you do this. And it's just one thing led to the other. The company started growing. I mean, I was chief cook and bottle washer. I would literally work for 24 hours a day. It was literally, it sounds extravagant, but it was literally 24 hours. You'd wake up, you'd cook, you'd go to the grocery, you'd handle emails from customers, you would go do deliveries, you'd come back to the point where you're standing where your heels would hurt you. There was so much work because I couldn't afford to hire staff. And eventually the company grew over time. We were able to hire people, able to move out, get a commercial kitchen. And, the side of the company now that the direction we're going in is more large-scale manufacturing. So we are one of the larger meal production companies in Trinidad. We produced about 1 million and something meals since we started in 2010. And in 2014, I used to make pasta by hand with this little hand crank machines because we create healthy meals for customers. You want the best for your customers. And I started incorporating fresh sweet potatoes in my dough and cranking this pasta out. And I was like, maybe I could put more in there. Maybe I could put more in there, make it healthy. And the idea came, why not make pasta from sweet potatoes or from cassava? And I got the owner of a large supermarket to introduce me to a minister of agriculture back then. And I took this little prototype to him in a little plastic bag and I said, look, I have an idea. And he looked at me and he said, nobody will buy it. That was the truth of it. Nobody will ever buy it. People wouldn't eat that. And, it wasn't discouraging. Okay, it was discouraging. But it wasn't discouraging enough to say I'm going to give up on it. I don't give up that easily. And I kept at it and got the formula better. And one day decided I'm going to launch this in Trinidad. So, we launched pasta that's made from sweet potatoes. And I got a supermarket to take it. And the night that I was making the first batch, back then she was my girlfriend. And we were making this on this little machine. And in the course of 8 hours, we made, how much? Maybe like 25 bags of pasta. It was this tiny machine. And I was like, you know what? This is not going to work. Let's see what we could do differently. So I went on eBay and I saw somebody put up this used pasta machine. It's a bigger one. And I begged him, I hit him a sad story. And he sold it to me. And I literally maxed my credit card to buy this bigger machine. And I got it in and I was so happy. Finally, we could make a big enough batch and make it worthwhile. And I turned on the machine and it broke. It's the first thing that happened, So the entrepreneurship was such a journey. I mean, it's ups and it's downs. You kind of have to have thick skin. You have to be motivated. I remember the time as well, the first time I bought a truck, a frozen transport truck. And I brought it home. I was like, Ma, because I was doing deliveries in this old car that needed paint. I couldn't afford to get it fixed. I had to learn to change the shocks myself. And I bought this truck. And I brought it home. I was like, Ma, look, I buy a truck. And I was like, come see the inside. And I opened the door and the door fell straight on the ground. So, I could laugh now, But back then it was such, in the moment, you just have to say, this has happened. If I worry about it, I can't change it. Move on and do something different. And, today, we were the first company in the world to actually commercialize pasta made from sweet potatoes and from cassava. We did Trinidad's first ever export of fries from sweet potatoes and cassava, a container load. It was ranked the number one product in the category on Amazon. So, we are at a point where the company is doing better. We export to a number of different places. There are still challenges. We're at the point where now, whereas some companies are closing down because of COVID during this time, we can actually focus on growth. It's not as easy, but still. So I'm happy with what we've done. It hasn't been easy. We have a good support system, a lot of workers who've been with us for a very long time. And so that's where I am right now.
Wow. Okay. You totally blew my mind with that story. I've never heard this story before. So I sat there in amazement from the first word. You said that you weren't really a big cook.
No.
And here you were all of a sudden cooking and selling,
The good thing is that what I do is I keep mentors in the business, and I travel a lot and I see places a lot, and I would go to a place and I'd want to figure out, how is this done? I would talk to people and find out, how do you make this? I'd network with people, food techs, you name it, chefs. And it's a lot of being self-taught, a lot of experimentation. We learn by making mistakes, a lot of costly mistakes, but that's how you learn. You don't grow unless you make a mistake and you learn, and you have to grow and come out of it. I do my best to work with smaller entrepreneurs as much as I can. People who you feel like you want to enter entrepreneurship, but you're not too sure if you should do it, how to do it. And the truth of it is, I was 23 years old. I lived in my parents' home back then. If my company failed, I wasn't going to go hungry. I had an education. I could probably get a job. Luckily, it paid off, but I don't think it's for everybody. You know, there's a lot of instability in there. You don't always have a steady salary. It's a lot of times smaller than what people think. You never know what's going to happen. A lot of people are happy having a 9 to 5. It's stable. You get vacation. You know, I think about work all day. I would be on my phone at night. Saturdays, Sundays, I'm answering emails, seeing about something, fixing something. It's all the time. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to know that, hey, this is whole day, every day. You know, especially if you come from a background where you don't have a lot of financial backing and everything is on your shoulders. And that is one thing that I have embraced, a lot of hard work, you know, but working smarter, not harder. You know, I try to automate things, you know, just keep at it, keep focused. But again, sometimes you think maybe I would have been better off if I had stayed in a 9 to 5. But I have had so many experiences that many people have not had the opportunity to have. Mm-hmm. And money is one thing, but the experience of making it, and sometimes the lives that you could touch along the way, that's the most important thing along the journey.
I'm curious, whatever happened to the masters?
You know, I didn't take it up, and I never did it. Most of my friends who went to school with me, they are more educated than I am. And I always wondered, you know, would it ever bite me in the back? But I mean, I'm happy with the choices I've made. It's not off the table. I've learned a lot in business. I've made a lot of mistakes, as I said. But I am happy with the choices that I made. And I think that even if I were to try to get a job somewhere, that I'm experienced enough to learn and to grow. And I would make good choices now after being 10 years in business. I mean, I know what to do and what not to do and what mistakes to avoid.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So what were some of the, if you had to pick 3 of the major obstacles or challenges you faced?
For a small business like mine, not having enough capital. That is one thing that was most difficult for me. You have to do things, but how do you get it done? That was the biggest obstacle. The second thing is really finding a good pool of loyal staff who you can grow and groom. And for us, it's not that we want people to work for us forever. I don't want people to work for me forever. You come and you work for me, with me, alongside me. Let me teach you. Let me help you grow. If you come to me and you say, I want to open a business, then great, I'll support you. I'll be your first customer. I'll come and buy food from you every Friday night. You know, and the last thing I think was hard for me was really there's a learning curve in everything that you do. And you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and it's not to beat yourself up about the mistakes. I mean, I would dwell on the mistakes that I would have made before, and it would bother you, would rest on your mind, rest on your heart. It's hard sometimes being criticized, saying you should have known better than that. Why did you make that mistake? You know, but it's just counting it as a learning experience and moving on.
Okay. So how did you navigate some of those challenges? So I know financing is a big one for entrepreneurs, you know, finding capital, you know, avoiding or as best as you can, you know, mistakes that you are likely to make, you know, as you proceed in the. So how have you learned or navigated around those challenges that you mentioned?
The biggest thing for me is to be able to manage my stress. You know, business is stress, entrepreneurship is stress, and being able to handle a stressful situation makes you think clearly. So sometimes it means taking a step back, doing something else other than working in the business. And one of the things that nobody knows is that I collect instruments. Right?
Musical instruments?
Musical instruments. It's the most random thing. I was having my car washed one day, and this guy would traditionally, you call him like a piper. That's what people say, right? And he had this little guitar with like 4 strings on it. And he's like, hold this for me while I wash a car. And I was just strumming it. And I was like, no, this is fun. I enjoyed this. So I literally said, okay, you finish this, I'm coming back. And I walked into a store and I said, I want a guitar. So they looked at me like, What guitar? Like, sell me something. So I was like, okay. So I got a guitar and I started going on YouTube and learning to play. And I realized that it was something that took my mind off of work, that allowed me to kind of get some stress relief for a short amount of time. And it's something I do to this day. But then I started collecting other instruments just randomly. Like my wife buys me like drums, or might buy me keyboards, and I bought a harmonica one day. And there is joy in me learning, overcoming these little challenges, how to play an instrument. It's just something I enjoy. And I mean, being able to get away from it, recoup, think about what's happening, that to me is a big deal of getting through these obstacles. I mean, in business, you always hear people say, well, you have to find a way. You do have funding. Well, you have to find a way. You can't always find a way when there's no money in the bank. But, I mean, you do find a way sometimes, eventually. So I would say, yeah. And I'm lucky to have a personality where I could kind of step back and count in my head 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go and blow up somebody, let nobody see, and come back and be like, all right, let's tackle this again. And that's what I do. I like to travel as well. Before COVID, I like to travel and do physical things. 1 year I was stressed and I jumped on a plane and I went skydiving. For my honeymoon, I went to Alaska and I did a 5K. I enjoy challenges. Just random little things that I like to do.
You definitely have the heart, guts, and mind to be an entrepreneur based on some of the things you just told me.
Yeah, it is a lot of things. And I mean, the journey has allowed me to travel and see things that I would not have done. I've been almost to the southernmost part of the world. I've been to the North Pole. I've been, to Buckingham Palace. I actually had a pack of pasta in the Buckingham Palace. A couple of years ago, the royal family puts on this competition called Pitch at Palace, where they bring entrepreneurs from around the world and you can pitch your business idea and you get to meet a lot of people. And somebody from the Ministry of Trade in Trinidad called me and said, listen, Trinidad has a spot, you want to go? I'm like, okay. So I went. I mean, I've never been to England before then. And they put us in the Buckingham Palace. We got to go to Facebook headquarters and we won that year. Yeah.
Whoa.
So we got to rub shoulders with the royal family, and it was a nice experience. Again, it's one of those things that I would not have gotten to experience if it weren't for business. It was fun. It's been a fun journey.
It sounds that way. So, if you could change anything that happened in the past, what would you have done differently? Would you have started earlier? Would you have waited? Is there anything that you look back and think, okay, maybe I could have done this a little bit differently in hindsight?
Don't give credit. The hardest thing about business for me is accounts receivable. For us, at least, I had to learn how to manage personal relationships and business relationships as it relates to accounts receivables. It's easy to gradually turn a business relationship into a friendship. And it's one of those things that I had to learn to manage a little bit better. That was one of the struggles that we have had, managing accounts receivables, accounting for interest payments, where payments are received late. And that was the hardest obstacle I've had to overcome over the last few months. And I think I've learned better from it. I took the time, I went to a business mentor and said, listen, I'm having this problem. And he spoke to me about it, and that helps me understand and grow and have some tougher skin towards people. That was the one thing.
Okay. Wow. So, if you had to sum up, I guess, your tips or your advice to aspiring entrepreneurs, what are some of the, I guess, the boxes they need to check before they decide to jump head first?
So you know what? You need to chart a path, and you need to stay 2 steps ahead. So if you start a business, one thing I tell people is, listen, what are your competitors doing? What are you going to be doing differently? And you can't always compete on price. You're going to have to offer something different, or you're going to have to tap into a segment of the market that is not being fully covered. Why are people going to come to you versus your competitors? That's one thing. Second is that, yes, if you're doing it now, then your competitors can possibly copy you. What is your next step? Step after that. You need to always think a couple steps ahead. If you're costing out a business, especially if it's something you've never done before, it's going to cost you twice as much. And that was advice given to me by a business person. I was like, nah, and it came to light. It's going to cost you twice as much. If you cater for it costing $50,000, it's going to cost $100,000. Make allocations from it for the start. Write down your plans. Figure it out from the start. What are you going to do if this happens, if that happens? Document it. The other thing is continuity is very, very important for a business. And I'm at the point where now I am trying to delegate things away so that I don't have to be the everything in this business. And it's important as well. So you need to make sure if you want there, how is this going to continue? Who's next up? And plan that from early and from the start. It's very important.
Okay, and now that you are a mature, seasoned business owner, have you learned anything specific from the pandemic? Has the pandemic affected your business negatively or positively?
We managed to navigate the pandemic a lot better, I think, than some people. We have two segments of the business. One is focused on manufacturing and exports. That's more supermarket sales, direct to customer, retail. Other side is meals. We had to shut down the meals for a couple of weeks when the country closed down. And I actually voluntarily closed a week before that for the safety of myself, my family, and my staff, as well as my customers. Other side of the company, pandemic started, we sell a lot on Amazon. And what we would sell in a month, I sold in a couple of days. Because people started flocking to Amazon to buy things, anticipating something bad happening. And I was like, wait, what's happening here? Then you have to worry about, listen, sales are good, better than you expect. How are you going to meet demand while maintaining safety in the workplace? So, we had to put things in place, but then stocks ran out. We couldn't get raw materials. You couldn't get packaging. And then we had to shut down as well, like a lot of people. But, luckily we were able to navigate. We're in an okay position now. Things could be better, but we're afloat. We're going to be here next year. We have very loyal customers. We offer good services. We pivot the business accordingly. A small business for me allows me to be very agile. Week on week, I can change. I can offer something different. It's not a lot of bureaucracy. And that helps me navigate difficult situations and be able to adapt to what's there. And that has allowed me, I think, to be able to grow and stay around.
Ideally, where do you see yourself and or the business in like 5 years?
So I have this vision for this business, right?
I love it.
This vision is, I want to put both businesses on one huge lot of land. And I like the idea of having everything farm to table, because our business is farm to table. The foods that we make, one facility makes the inputs into the other. So could you imagine you go into this huge acre of land or couple acres of land, and you go down, one road is cassava alley, one road is sweet potato alley. You go down, there's a place where you could have some sort of agro-tourism. There's a place that sells meals. There's a place that has the inputs and people could come and see how things are done. There's a family area. That is what I want for this business. I've been to a place in Ushuaia. There's a city called Ushuaia, and you could see where jams are being made. And I like the idea of the public being able to come in and see and be a part of. And that's what I want for this business, and I want to continue to be able to be creative, because entrepreneurship for me is being creative, expressive. And I want to be able to do that on a larger scale.
I love it. I love it. It sounds great and it sounds achievable.
Yeah, it is something that's a little bit away, but we are planning for right now.
Wow. So, Jody, it's really been inspiring. So any other business ideas that you have in mind in terms of maybe supplementing what you do now, or other ideas that you want to bring to life, or
You know,
or are you just focusing on this business?
I always toy with different ideas, but I've developed such a passion for food itself and the technology behind food that it is something I'm going to stay in for a little while, but try to divest a little bit, so that it's not, we have two lines of business. It's risky to have only two lines of business. We play with things like renewables, a lot of different ways we continuously do research on. But I have to get this going and settled first before I could even think about adding in anything else, because I can't handle anything more on my plate right now. But I would love to continuously add product lines in there, other lines of business. It'll come. I have things that sometimes I jot it down in a little book and say, one day I'll get to this, or this is a good idea. Hopefully I'll be able to execute some other things soon enough.
In terms of the growth of the business, have you thought about, for example, listing on like a junior stock exchange or on the stock exchange? I ask because, the brand it's known. The company, separate and apart from the pandemic, seems to be growing and doing well, and there's an appetite for what you're doing. So when you think about, having access to the kind of capital you may need for the dream you have in 5 years, is the capital markets or the stock markets appealing to you in terms of raising funds?
In figuring out how to grow, we played with different ideas, and ideas were, do we grow here or do we grow overseas? Because we have been contacted by other governments. Come in and we'll give you everything. Before COVID, we were going to consider a move of adding in production in another country. And when COVID hit, we weren't able to leave the country at all. So that had to kind of, be put on the back burner in there. I actually did try to proceed into listing on the local stock exchange. I didn't continue it. Jamaica is actually one country that I thought of growing in. My mother is from Jamaica. I'm eligible for a passport there. So why not? We would adapt to wherever we could get the support from. There are opportunities and the world is global. Nowhere is far anymore. Wherever we get opportunities, we will definitely consider. Trinidad is my home. It has been my home. I have employees here. I will never close here.
Yes.
But where opportunities exist, we would definitely pivot and add on. And we want to be global.
I think you can be global. That's wow. I feel inspired, like I could go and start a business. I feel so encouraged, and I'm sure, some of the aspiring entrepreneurs have learned, from what you've shared in terms of the challenges, and I guess the existing business would have learned in terms of how to pivot during a time like this. So Jody, what would your advice be to someone who has an idea, it's novel, there's nothing like it, and they're thinking of trying it, but obviously they have nobody else to mimic? What would your advice be to someone like that?
People told me that your products would not be successful, but if you really think that it could work, you study it, you research it, and you really feel that it could happen, test the waters. Launch it on a small scale. See what the feedback is like. See if you have people asking for it more. And then make the commitment to grow. The ideas that people say can't be done, those are the ones I think that are the best and are worth pursuing. And it would be a shame not to pursue something that you have a passion for. You don't want to live with regrets. At least try it.
Okay, I think that's a great advice. Thank you, Jody, for that word of, I guess, encouragement to someone that has an idea, who wants to try something new. So I know we've talked a lot about the business, but about Jody, is there anything that you'd want to share that maybe nobody knows about, or it's not public knowledge, or something interesting? So the man behind, the real man behind Slimdown 360.
You know, I'm simple. I enjoy physical activity. I enjoy the outdoors. And I started enjoying, as I said, I enjoyed music, and it's something I didn't think I would enjoy. I gave my son a rock star name. His name is Jax, J-X. Well, J-X-O-N. I told him I'd put him in a band one day. I just like experiencing new things. I would try everything at least once to know what it's like. I'm not shy to try something and make a mistake. I'm not shy to try something and fall down. I just want to experience as much as I could experience. And there are so many things that you can do, you could enjoy. And it's a sin not to go out there and see what exists. Create a bucket list and just try to do that. That's one of the things I like. I don't have a written bucket list, but there are things that I would see that I want to do, and I do my best to get to do it.
Okay.
Ride a dog sled, like I did that some time ago. I mean, those random little things that I enjoy.
Will you try bungee jumping?
I was this close to it. You know, I've been mountain biking in the Rockies. I've done so much different things. Again, no, actually, I shouldn't say that. My wife will say, don't go bungee jump. You have a little child now, so let me say no. But more or less, I'd try a lot of things if I could.
Very brave. Well, there we have it. Thank you very much, Jody, for sharing with us. I think you've done exceptionally well, you know, considering how young you went into business, and that the fact that you created, I find, a market, you know, in Trinidad and Tobago, and you've gone and made a name for yourself internationally on Amazon, you know, so it's very commendable and very inspiring what you've shared. And I thank you for being so open and transparent too about the challenges, so that, you know, for those of us looking in, you know, we realize that it's not all glamour as easy as it might seem, you know, when you see nice packaging, good advertising, and not understand the sweat and the challenges and the headache that goes with it. So
a lot of headache, a lot of cut. It's I always thought I'd be in the Twin Towers in a shirt and a tie. And I spend more time in boots and dirty jeans and a t-shirt. That's just the reality of it. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. I enjoy it.
Wow, that's excellent. Thank you very much, Jody, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Urpreneur. Thank you for joining us on another exciting episode of Urpreneur. You heard it, it can be done. So I think I'm personally inspired by everything I've heard today and all the episodes before. It really does make you feel like you can do it. And I love the fact that the entrepreneurs, they never sugarcoat the hard work that goes behind what we see as a success. So I thank each and every entrepreneur for being so vivid and so candid. And I thank Jody White for his insights today. So we look forward to seeing you on our next episode. Take care.